What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today we have perhaps the most complicated install I've ever done on a motorcycle. Why? Because this box right here is full of wires, and it's got what looks like a spare ECU, and it came with half a ream of instructions. So, let's dive on in. Not only did this kit come with what looks like, a half a ream of paper, it's legal paper, and they use the entire sheet, so this is going to be complicated. But what the hell are we even installing here today? Well, the CB1000R here has a lot of really great stuff on it. It's got power modes, it's got ABS, it's got traction control. It's got all the modern technology you'd want, with the sole exception of cruise control. Well, there's a company in Australia called smc-r that has cruise control kits available for this motorcycle. By the way, they're not sponsoring this. I bought this kit. And I wanted to see how complex or how difficult it would be to add cruise control to a throttle-by-wire motorcycle that does not have it fitted. So let's dive on in and see what this is all about. Oh, but before we do, it'd be remiss of me not to remind you that I'm giving this motorcycle away right here. You can get yourself entered to win by clicking the link down in the description below and getting this sweet ride right here. This thing is actually one of the nicest motorcycles I've ridden in a long time. So if you're interested, click that link down in the description below, but let's dive on into this thing. I'm kind of expecting this to take all day. There's like so many plugs and wires and zip ties, so let's get started. As I begin the process of stripping down this bike, a thought occurs. Can you strip a naked motorcycle? Why are there two washers on these? That's silly. Spite's Corner pro tip. When you're pulling these push pins, always reset them before you put them in your parts tray. You'll thank me later. All right, now if this is anything like the old Hornet, the tank slides back and then comes right up. A few quick disconnections later and some spilled gas, and ta-da! Let go. You know what? This actually reminds me a lot of the Hornet. The Hornet has this exact same beefy strut that goes down the middle with the engine mounts being like hangers coming off of it. This literally looks exactly like the 919. That's really cool, actually. All right, now we gotta get the snorkel out of here. There's one tab there, and one tab there, and then it should just kind of wiggle, pull out. Oh man, I can tell getting this back in is gonna be a bitch. There it is. So now we get to begin the install. So, I'm gonna loosen this up just a little bit, and then we're gonna slide this right in there. Yeah, clutch is still all the way in. I will say though, I am kind of impressed so far with this kit. The amount of stuff that they include for like quality of life things is really nice. Like, they have that double-sided sticky tape, and then they've got a zip tie that goes around the back side here that zip ties it in place. Now that, quite literally, ain't going nowhere. And then you just sort of wiggle jiggle that back into place. Let's see if I can improve that slightly. That's better. Yeah, much better. Cool. We're doing this hand cam style real quick because I just wanted to shout out the thing that separates a good install when you're dealing with anything electric from a bad install is how you end up doing your cable management. So you want to basically have any of these aftermarket cables running underneath stuff. You don't want it running over. So for example, this guy is running underneath all of those ABS pump lines, all of this. It's going to go under here, and then it's going to plug in there, and the rest of the main harness is doing the exact same thing, right? That way nothing is getting pinched, everything is nice and happy, it's sitting good, and you also save on zip ties that way. I don't need to put any zip ties in here because it's all just held in place by gravity and the motorcycle. Up here I'll definitely want zip ties, but everywhere else, just be careful and think about your cable management, and that really is going to make the difference. Now comes the fiddly part. Signal wire is the pink wire, and the terminal must be backed out of the connector. Locate the white one-way connector in the kit's parts bag. Probably ought to plug that back in, huh? I will say, if you've never done any electrical work on your bike before, this is going to be like a 12 out of 10 on difficulty. And I know there's somebody out there who's saying, I should just leave the snorkel off. Bike's going to run better without it. That's bullshit. Taking a snorkel out of a fuel-injected motorcycle is not going to help anything. Now we tap into the clutch switch. Wow, these really don't want to come undone. I don't want to break it. There, that's actually really clever. Very clever indeed. That's cool. I've never seen a tap like that. It's a black two-way plug. One end has two black wires going to the rear brake light switch. Alright, this is the brake sensor, which taps in right here. That one's gonna get a zip tie. Just gonna knock that out before I forget. There. There it is. Throttle position sensor. This is the throttle position sensor right there, and then you had to tap into it. So if you're looking at the new tap that they provide you, the gray wires on the left, blue and white is in the middle, and then black and white is on the right-hand side. They say to look at it like this. That's confusing because they say to look at it like that. That's confusing because that's not how you're gonna wire it. You're gonna wire it like this. So just, if you're out there and you're doing this, that's how that tap looks. Now I gotta figure out where the wire is that taps into that. Probably this guy going in there. And then what is the order to stab these guys back in there? Insert the black wire into the hole that the black and white wire was fitted to. Which hole was the black and white wire fitted to? And then this gets plug-a-dated back in there. Cool. Wow, all right. That's it. Now I just need cable ties.
Later.
All right, folks, the bike is kind of back together-ish, and as you can see, the cruise is on. Right there, you'll see there's some lights in the switch, and the bike is working. That means that I installed the throttle position sensor wires correctly, because if it wasn't revving, then we'd have a problem. It means I'd messed up some of the orientation of the throttle position wires. So those are good to go. Now what I need to do is I need to go through a giant set, multiple pages of calibration and adjustments, because the throttle control, the cruise control, needs to understand how the throttle works. It needs to understand how some of the rest of the bike works, and you actually have to teach it. So I'm gonna do this all off camera because A, it's gonna be really boring, and B, I need to focus, because if I f this up, it's gonna be a giant pain in the butt. So yeah, next cut in the show will be probably us riding. Or hopefully not, hopefully this isn't the case. The next cut in the show could very well be me trying to reach out to an Australian, trying to figure out what went wrong. So that's why I'm not filming. And ta-da, the bike is running, and I actually was out here all day filming a couple of videos. Number one of those is MT10 versus Honda CB1000R. So stay tuned if you're interested in seeing how these guys stack up side to side, but that is not what we're here to talk about right now. We gotta talk about the cruise control. So let's get out into rush hour traffic, shall we? Perfect place to test the cruise control. Oh yeah, I also test rode that Thruxton RS over there. First time I rode one of those bikes. And that was an interesting experience. Speaking of interesting experiences, I'm gonna have fun trying to get through rush hour traffic with a narwhal on the front end of my motorcycle. Oh, I love how much power this bike makes. It's like perfectly usable while also not being overwhelming. Just as a little teaser for the MT10 video. Now, I want to talk about this cruise control install first, before we even get into whether or not it works. Because obviously we're out here riding the motorcycle, it's installed, it's working. Now, the install itself is not difficult. Nothing that I did yesterday was hard. In fact, it was harder to install my wireless quad lock charger than it was to install this. This was functionally plug and play. There were a few times when I had to turn the camera off so that I could get in and pull out the pins and make sure I was putting the wires back in the right place. Because especially with the throttle position sensor, if you don't get those pins in the right spot, the bike is not going to know what the throttle's doing. And you'll throw a whole bunch of codes, and you're really just going to cause yourself a massive headache. Because when you think about what a cruise control has to do, it's myriad, right? It's got to sense brakes, it's got to sense clutch, it's got to sense throttle position, it's got to sense speed, it's got to sense impulse off of the coil. It's got to do so much stuff to make sure that it's working. It's actually a really complicated thing, and that's something that I didn't realize going into this install. I didn't realize how many systems a modern cruise control has to be tapped into in order for it to work, and that was kind of eye-opening. However, there is a massive calibration process that you have to do, and that basically is just a CYA so that they don't, the folks over at MC Cruise don't have any issues
saying that it's plug and play. No, you have to run the process of calibrating it to your motorcycle, because every motorcycle is just a little bit different, right? And my first time through, I got the calibration wrong. The first time it said to turn on the motorcycle, the bike immediately went to 4,500 RPM, and it was idling at 4,500 RPM. For those of you who don't know, a modern motorcycle idles at about 1,500, unless it's a Harley, and then it's 1,000. So we were idling more than twice the standard speed, and that's because I missed a button press. One button press, and the bike was totally messed up. Luckily, it didn't throw any codes. It's just that the cruise control set the base throttle, or the closed throttle position, to 40% open throttle. And that was entirely my fault. And frankly, it's just by the grace of God that it didn't throw a code and I didn't have to go get the code cleared, because I don't think I can clear a code on this Honda without taking it to a dealership. So I do want to caveat the cruise control installation process by saying it's not hard, but you can mess up your motorcycle if you're not doing it carefully. If you're not comfortable following directions to a T and making changes to your motorcycle's throttle position sensor, the ECU, and the whole system, maybe this install isn't for you. Mercifully, whoever's winning this bike, they don't have that issue. Now, with that said, let's talk about the cruise control. So first of all, you got a one button on, and then you got a one button set. And then ta-da! It's working. That's awesome. That is the one thing that this motorcycle did not have that I really wished it did. And the fact that you can add it to this thing is so nice. It's so nice. You can actually go in and adjust the increments by which the cruise control increases or decreases speed. So for example, watch the dashboard. I'm just going to press and hold the up button. It's pretty slow to add speed right now, but honestly, I don't need it much quicker. What I would like to see is going down. I would like to see it take a little bit of speed off a little bit faster. So I may go in and tweak that, but the worst case is you just grab the front brake, or you grab the clutch, or you grab the rear brake, and it turns off. Because that's the beauty of this system, is it functions almost identically to every other cruise control on every other motorcycle that I've ever ridden, which is awesome. The only thing that I'm noticing, well, there's two. First, if you grab the clutch to turn the cruise control off, it takes a second. So I'm not sure if you're going to hear it, but right there, it sped the motor up because the throttle was still open and the system was waiting for a duty cycle to run through so that it realized, oh shit, I gotta let go of the throttle. So it takes a second coming off of cruise when you pull in the clutch. The same is kind of true as well when you pull in the brake, but it's less noticeable, right? So if I turn it on, got no car behind me, you can feel just a second where the engine and the brakes are kind of fighting each other because I didn't grab the clutch. It's momentary. It's almost imperceptible. If you're not paying attention, you won't notice. But that's the beauty of this install, is that it was so easy and it functions almost identically to every other cruise control I've ever used. The only thing, and I don't know how they would be able to get this to work, the only thing it doesn't have is the roll forward to kill option, where you push the throttle forward to close cruise control. It doesn't have that. And I don't know that you could actually add that in aftermarket. And the only reason I talk about that is because that is a kind of standard way to turn off cruise control. So let's say, for example, you put a buddy on this and they have a cruise control bike, and you're like, hey, this is the cruise control. It would behoove you to let them know, hey, look, it doesn't have the roll forward to kill option that most cruise controls do. But then, you get into stop and go traffic like this, and you just power it down. One button. And because it's not linked into the dashboard, this button right here, this light, that's your indicator. And that's basically the status light for the whole thing. So to wrap this up, do I recommend this mod? Yes. Yes, I do. I would not recommend it to somebody who doesn't feel comfortable with electrical work or doesn't have a buddy who can help them, or who isn't willing to take it to a dealership for install. But if you're comfortable, depinning plugs on your motorcycle and tapping into wires, this is no big deal. It really isn't. You just need to really pay attention when you're going through the setup and the calibration. And I will say, MC Cruz wrote extremely, extremely detailed guides for all of this. So, good job, guys. And it would be remiss of me not to remind you that this bike can be yours. It's already got the cruise control installed. So that saves you, what would I pay for it? $700? That saves you $700. Enough that you could go buy yourself a nice exhaust for this motorcycle, because I've run out of budget for it. So yeah, click that link down in the description below where you can get yourself entered to win, and you've got until February 27th to get entered. In the meantime, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.